Good evening, and thank you for joining the 2020 Milwaukie Candidates Forum. My name is Greg Hemer, and I will be the moderator tonight. Remember, thanks to a generous grant from Celebrate Milwaukie Incorporated, operators of the Milwaukie Sunday Farmers Market, open through October, 9:30 a.m. to 2 p.m., located across the street from City Hall, and our wonderful friends at Willamette Falls Studio. You can watch on Zoom, Willamette Falls Studio YouTube channel, and on Comcast 23. For those of you on Zoom, the chat and hand features are turned off, so no comments will be received during the broadcast. I would like to thank Zach Perry, Greg Hemer, Dave Hedges, and especially Linda Hedges for being the forum committee. With the help of 6 NDAs, Ardenwald/JCB, Hector Campbell, Historic Milwaukie, Island Station, Llewellyn, and Linwood, we received over 75 questions from residents to ask the candidates. Our NDAs do a wonderful job connecting our residents to events, opportunities, news, and your concerns to the city and each other. Please consider joining an NDA meeting. Please check the city websites for times and places. We also want to thank the League of Women's Voters for including this broadcast as part of their candidate forum series throughout the region. We would like to remind our viewers that there are 2 positions open during this election. Although we are including all 6 candidates at once, position 1 has 2 candidates on the ballot, Angel Faulkner and Kaylin Parsons. Position 3, there are 4 candidates on the ballot, Adam Korsrabati, Desi Nicodemus, Rob Reynolds, and John Stoll. Please remember to turn in your ballot at an official ballot drop site in Clackamas County, available to the public 24 hours a day from October 14th until 8 p.m. on November 3rd. 2 ballot drop sites are in Milwaukie at the Public Safety Building and City Hall. You may mail your ballot by October 27th for it to be counted. The Forum Committee reviewed 75 resident questions from the residents and grouped them into 4 major categories: budget, development, environment, and residents. The committee then considered the questions that were most pertinent to our listening audience and will provide reasonable and fair answers from the candidates. We developed 6 questions per category, have put them in a set order, and will be asking each candidate a different question. Each candidate will have 2 minutes once they unmute themselves to answer, and when the alarm sounds, we ask each candidate to wrap up their statements. The candidates have been notified of the topics, but not have been given knowledge of any questions. Each candidate will be given an opportunity for an introduction at the beginning and final remarks at the conclusion. We plan on the forum to last 1.5 to 2 hours, but if we are running quicker than expected, we may ask candidates a question from a general category. We will begin tonight's program with selecting the order of whom will go first. After selecting the first candidates, all other candidates to follow will be in alphabetical order. The second topic will go to the next alphabetical order candidate from the first topic, and so on. Each candidate will have an opportunity to go first. We will randomly begin the first presenter by rolling a die. In alphabetical order, Ms. Faulkner is number 1, Mr. Korsrabati is 2, Mr. Nicodemus is 3, Mr. Parsons is 4, Mr. Reynolds is 5, and Mr. Stoll is 6. The number is 4, and Mr. Parsons will go first. Thank you very much, candidates, for joining us this evening. There is a lot of excitement about these races, and we are very happy that you could take the time to address the questions directly from our NDAs and residents. I would like to begin by starting off with an introduction about yourself, who you are, and why you're running for council. Mr. Parsons, if you could please begin.
Thank you. First, I'd just like to say thank you to the neighborhood associations and the moderator for hosting this and giving us the opportunity. It's great to give everyone a place to hear what all the candidates have to say to make an informed decision. So my name is Callum Parsons. I've lived in Milwaukie practically my whole life. I was born in Portland and moved here at the age of 5, so I grew up here. I'm currently in college. I'm 19 years old, and so definitely probably the youngest candidate here, and young to be a candidate. But there are elected officials who are even younger than me across the country, so it's not unprecedented. I've always been called to service. I've always been called to just serving my community. I was a Boy Scout for most of my childhood. Performed lots of service projects there. My school, I always volunteered whenever they needed a volunteer. And I also served as chairman of the Portland chapter of the National Youth Rights Association. So service, again, is definitely something in my blood and something I've always been drawn to. And this is just another opportunity for me to get out there and serve my community. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Parsons. Mr. Reynolds, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Rob Reynolds. I've lived in the Milwaukie area most of my life. I went to Rowell Junior High. I've moved into my current residence about 3 years ago. My background is I've been an account executive, a business manager, a project manager, manages pretty major projects. And the reason I'm running is because I see the city heading in the wrong direction with their comprehensive plan. It's not written clearly. It's taking away our rights. It's stealing property from people on the Willamette River and Kellogg Creek. And our community development people want to push this through. We met with them this week, and that was one of their top things, was pushing through this comprehensive plan. It was written very poorly. It needs to be rewritten so that we have a voice as Milwaukee citizens, and so that we don't lose our rights, and so that we don't zone our houses in multifamily zoning, and so we can have single family zoning, which is what it was until the state of Oregon passed the change. But the city of Milwaukee doesn't have to jump on that bandwagon. We don't want to be part of Metro, and we don't want to be City of Portland's servant. That's what it seems like they're doing with this comprehensive plan. The other thing is, with the comprehensive plan, when I was meeting with the city managers, not everyone had read it. And it seemed like if it's a plan the city council passed, everyone should have read it and know exactly what it says and what's in it. And they didn't. So that's kind of sad that we would have passed something that's so important to our city, and not everybody that's involved in the city knows what's in it. So I'm running to bring safety back to Milwaukee, to support our police, and to come out and say that I support the police and where they stand and what they're doing. Our city council hasn't done that. So I want to make sure that that would be one of my number one things to do if elected to city council. The other thing is, I want to make sure that we change the charter. Anything over $1 million should go out to vote. Shouldn't be just decided by city council. I don't know if you're all aware or not, but the city council wasted $6 million on a new city hall. And for what? I don't know, just wasting your money. We have plenty of streets that need to be repaved.
I'm sorry, Mr. Reynolds, your 2 minutes are up, so if you could wrap it up real quick. Thank you.
No, that's it. I just, everybody needs the roads paved, and we don't have a plan for it. So, but they can waste our money on a new city hall. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Mr. Stoll, you are up next, please.
Can you hear me?
You're good.
Okay. I'd also like to thank the people who put this NDA forum together. It's an excellent opportunity during our current COVID environment to get our views out. We really don't have many other avenues at this time. I came to Oregon about 46 years ago to go to school. I got a degree in economics from Reed College and then got an MBA in finance from Willamette University. Worked the first 15 years of my career for Bonneville Power, doing finance, also did a little stint in utility rate making. For the last 15 years before I retired, I worked in software. I was a software implementation consultant. A large part of that job was listening to clients, trying to figure out what their needs were, and developing planning models for them. Since retiring 7 years ago, I've been what I call a retired community volunteer. I've been active with the city's budget committee for 9 years, chairman for the last 7 years, so I'm very familiar with the ins and outs of the budget. One of my primary concerns during this period has been trying to develop increased transparency over the financial statements that show how much money is being raised from current ratepayers to fund capital investments in advance, rather than taking the opportunity to borrow for some of these. This leads to higher rates, the city sitting on our money that current citizens could be using to invest or pay down their credit card bills. I'm a little bit concerned about the development plans. I share Robert's concerns. I really don't like what I've seen happen to Southeast Portland with lots of apartment buildings with no parking. I don't want to see that in Milwaukee now. And I'm not totally sold on Metro saying that we have to have so many people here. I think Milwaukee is a gem. I really want to keep it that way. I don't have really a lot of disagreement with a lot of the direction the council's taking. The one big project I'd like to see us make some progress on is getting rid of the Kellogg Creek Dam and getting
Mr. Stoll, I'm sorry, Mr. Stoll. Mr. Stoll, your 2 minutes are up. If you would like to wrap it up.
I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stoll. Ms. Faulkner, would you like to introduce yourself, who you are, and why you're running for council?
Yeah, first I want to say thank you to everybody who worked so hard to put this event together, everyone who's taken the time to tune in, and I also want to thank my fellow candidates. I look forward to this conversation and learning more from all of you. My name is Angel Falconer. I've had the honor to serve you as your city councilor for the last 4 years. When my husband and I bought our home here in 2008, we fell in love with this town. We were lucky to find safe and affordable housing in a community where our family has thrived. But not all of our neighbors enjoy such easy access to all that this town has to offer. And over the years, I've dedicated my service to trying to change that. Now, as your city councilor, and before as a volunteer with my neighborhood association, the Public Safety Advisory Committee, and our city's visioning committee. I'm running for re-election to ensure that all of Milwaukee's residents have the same opportunities that I have to fully participate in our local community, economy, and government. If I'm reelected, I will continue to push for policies that advance the needs of our residents, all of our residents, including access to safe and affordable transportation options for all of us, including our most vulnerable road users, centering equity and fighting to make sure that there's more room at the decision-making tables so that our city leadership is more representative of our entire community, collaborating with our regional partners to bring funding and resources to the city to advance Milwaukee's needs, including some of the things that were mentioned here already, moving Milwaukee forward as a leader in the region to address some of our biggest challenges, including the housing affordability crisis and climate change. I really appreciate this opportunity that you've all provided tonight, and it's an honor and a privilege to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Khosrow Abadi, you are up next. And I don't mean to giggle when I say your name, but I've been practicing it over and over and over again. I still have problems pronouncing it. So, Mr. Khosrow Abadi, could you please introduce yourself, who you are, and why you are running for city council?
Yes, sir. First of all, thank you everyone for being here and joining us, including the candidates. My name is Adam Khosrow, and I am running for Milwaukee City Council, position number 3. I also would like to say that although 2020 has been tumultuous, let's not forget that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We need to keep that in mind. I'm running for this position simply because I felt that right now where we are, not only as a country, but as a community, I was needed to bring the sides together. I'm not somebody who picks sides or points fingers. I'm here to build bridges. I'm a combat veteran. I served in Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2004 as an infantryman in the United States Marine Corps. So I know what it means to serve, and I know what it means to sacrifice. And when I joined, it wasn't for me. It was for my country, and it was for my people back home. I'm a proud member of our minority community. I'm the son of a Persian immigrant and an Italian mother. And I am married to a beautiful Latina woman, Gabby, who is the daughter of two Peruvian immigrants. And I'm here to represent our city. I'm here to give voice to everybody who may have felt they didn't have one. My specific topics that I think our city needs to focus on the most is community engagement, affordable housing, public safety transportation, climate and environment, small business, and budget. We have a lot of empty businesses in downtown, and this was done pre-COVID. We need to do better to support the small businesses. I am a small business owner as well. I own a food cart here in Milwaukie, and unfortunately, I had to move the food cart out due to lack of making any money. And I hate to see that when you look downtown and you see those closed buildings. We need more support for our small businesses. Those could be women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, and we need to truly be more self-sustainable. We can't rely on raising fees and raising taxes every time we need to raise money for a project. There are other ways using our own resources to generate the revenue needed to solve the problems that we are facing. These issues are going to be resolved through being able to have the finances to do that.
Mr. Khosrowbadi, your 2 minutes are up if you'd like to just finish your statement.
Thank you. As a wrap up, Milwaukie, I'm here for you, and I'm always here to listen. I have 2 ears and one mouth for a reason. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nicodemus, if you could please bring us to the last introduction of the evening.
Hi, my name is Desi Nicodemus. I am also running for Milwaukee City Council Position 3. I was originally born in Toledo, Ohio. From there, I kind of moved around the U.S. and actually all over. I landed in Phoenix, Arizona, and that's where I met my wife, who's from Portland, which is why we are here. She's originally from Southeast Portland. She's a Franklin grad. She loves Franklin. And really why I'm running for City Council is, I'm a teacher. I've been teaching in the North Clackamas School District for 5.5 years at Lotwickham Elementary. And part of that time, I've also been working on a grant to support teachers of color and to help recruit and retain teachers of color. And that goes well with why I'm running. It's about representation. And when students of color don't see folks that look like them, it's a problem. And we need to have more representation. And so part of my platform of running is making sure that everyone in Milwaukee has a voice. Also, housing affordability is a huge issue, especially coming from the context of a teacher, and making sure that families and students have affordable housing here in Milwaukee is super important. Milwaukee, I have to agree with John, Milwaukee is a hidden gem. I had never heard of Milwaukee before. And when we were living in Brazil, we found this house. We were able to buy this house while we were living in Brazil. My wife was pregnant. We moved back. My son was born here in Milwaukee. He goes to Whitcomb. He'll go to Rao. He'll go to Milwaukee High School. And we're going to be lifelong Milwaukee residents. And really the most important thing is making sure that Milwaukee is diverse, inclusive, and representative of everyone that is living here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates. I think we learned a lot about each and every one of you. We are now going to move on to the budget topic. A lot of residents have concerns about how their money is spent, the tax and utility rates, and ways to make our dollars more effective towards programs and opportunities the city provides its residents. Mr. Reynolds, I will be asking you the first question. Recently, our water bill has increased. In your opinion, are the fees too high? A future opportunity for additional funding projects? Or are they just right?
It seems like they're too high. It seems like they've gone up every year since I moved here. It'd be nice to know what they're used for because nothing's changed as far as new water pipes, new sewer pipes, or anything that I know of. So I don't know why the fee's gone up. It's one of those things where you're charging me for something I don't know what you're doing to earn the money. What are you doing to earn the increase in what you're charging me? What are you doing? What's different about what you're doing now than what you were doing last year, or the year before? So if you're putting the money away for future projects, let me know. And then I would be, hey, that makes sense. If you're going to do a new water line somewhere or something, I'm more than willing to help out with paying for future projects. But let me know what the money's for. When you just raise it and don't tell me, it's kind of like, I'd like to know what my money's being spent on.
Thank you. Mr. Stoll, the next question is for you. In the mid-2010s, Milwaukie created its first urban renewal district. What is your vision for the use for the urban renewal dollars that Milwaukie is accumulating? Mr. Stoll, we cannot hear you, so if you could unmute yourself.
I'm having issues, okay, with the video anyways. My understanding is that the urban renewal money is for the downtown area, and I suppose we should be providing incentives to get new businesses down there, somehow marketing it. I think another area, while not part of the urban renewal area, that the city should really work on is the North Industrial area, where we could possibly be siting some office buildings and attracting people that want to leave downtown Portland because of some of the violence that's occurring there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stoll. The next question is for Ms. Faulkner. With the full financial effect of the COVID pandemic still to hit, what city services do you foresee being affected by any reduction to the city income?
We, as Mr. Stoll knows, he serves on our budget committee. We've planned pretty soundly, and we're in the very fortunate position, unlike a lot of places, to have not cut services at all. We have budgeted for less income going forward because of COVID, and we're not planning on reducing services. We've also been we've also had the ability to maintain all our staffing levels to make sure that our staffing will continue and the services that our community have come to rely on will continue. We benefit from a group of volunteers on our budget committee. It's made up of 5 community volunteers as well as the 5 members of the council, including the mayor. And this is a job that I think that we all take very, very seriously. And we've done an excellent job. And we've award-winning stewardship of the city's resources. So I'm not anticipating a cut in any of our services. And I'm very proud of that.
Thank you, Ms. Faulkner. The next question is for Mr. Khosrowshahi. If you received a large grant for the city, what project would you use it for?
If I received a large grant from the city, some of the projects that I would use it for is the projects I have in mind to make us more self-sustainable. We have 2 creeks at both ends of our city, Johnson Creek and Kellogg Creek, that are renewable energy sources that the city could be using by installing mini hydroelectric turbines that could generate power, and that power could then be used to generate the power the city needs for street lights, saving us money on our contract with PGE, which then can be reinvested into the city itself and other community needs as well. So that would be the real project I would undertake with a large grant, is making Milwaukie more self-sustaining. If we want to spend, increased amount of money on the Kellogg Dam, let's at least do something to where we can harness some of that power and that energy that is naturally occurring there with the money that the grant would provide. That would in turn also result in lower utility rates. That money could be used, that energy and power could be used to target low-income individuals, low-income families, fixed-income individuals, and provide them with some ease as it pertains to their utilities, because that is a part of affordable housing as well. And I don't know if a lot of us know, but our utilities here in Milwaukee are actually slightly higher than utilities in Lake Oswego. And when you look at the median income of the two cities and the median home values of the two cities, there's an issue there. So I would focus that money on making Milwaukee self-sustaining so we can generate our own revenue and our own renewable energy.
Thank you. The next question is for you, Mr. Nicodemus. What can Milwaukee afford to do to help counter-effect the global crisis of climate change?
Moving towards self-sustainability, I would also look into grants and ways for folks to get solar energy. There are ways that we can, there are grants and services out there for folks, especially low-income folks, to get these solar panels on their homes to bring down the price of their utility bills and to help make Milwaukee a more self-sustainable city. And, you know, I would agree that, you know, our utility bills are a little bit higher than what I've seen. They seem to go up every year. And I would work to find a way to make sure that, especially our water bill, goes down a bit. That is something that I know it hits us in the pocketbook, and we're a 2-family income. And my wife and I are both teachers, and it can really impact somebody's lifestyle. It can impact folks' ability to pay their rent and put food on the table. So I would look for ways to really lower our utility bills, and how do we get folks who need that, you know, solar panels and lower costs, to lower the costs. You know, you got to forgive me. You know, I'm new to this, and I'm just trying to be genuine here, and you know, I'm learning what we all need to do. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nicodemus. Mr. Parsons, the final question for you in the budget category. Would you recommend defunding the Milwaukee Police Department? What would be your vote and your comments on that issue?
To put it plainly, no. I don't think we should defund the police department at all. Police it's a very important service, one of the most important, I would argue, services that the city provides. You know, if you're in trouble, that's who you're going to call. That being said, I do think that we should put more time into community policing, which doesn't take that much money. Wouldn't raise the, you know, wouldn't be paying much more by having volunteers at the police department. New York City has a similar program where they basically have people who work for the police department who help with things like controlling traffic, or that's just one random example, things like that. It's similar to the cadet program that we already have, except it would be open to all ages and not just 15 to 21 it is right now. But we should definitely be promoting more community policing. But I would not defund or take money away from the police department at all, no.
Thank you, Mr. Parsons. That concludes our budget portion of the evening tonight. We are now going to move on to the next topic, which is development. As everyone is aware, development plays important roles in quality of life and opportunities for growth and expansion, while at the same time puts constraints on services and affordability. Mr. Stoll, the first question will be going to you. What does neighborhood livability mean to you?
Neighborhood livability, to me, means keeping things pretty much the way they are and integrating new developments probably as little as possible. And if you're going to add new stuff, try and keep it along major arterials. So in my terms, livability is easy access to grocery stores, getting downtown, keeping a nice urban canopy. I mean, in my mind, as I've said, Milwaukee's a gem. It really kind of reminds me of Mayberry RFD, especially when you look at some of the other suburbs in the Portland metro area where it seems much more like California. Now, of course, affordability is very important, but one of the primary things you're looking for in a city is rising property value. So that providing affordable housing is kind of difficult to do in that situation. So one of the key things that the council needs to do is try and figure out, as we develop resources to support affordable housing, how can we get the best return on that money and keep Milwaukee as livable as it is today.
Thank you, Mr. Stoll. Ms. Faulkner, the next question goes to you. Is there value in the city for large residential lots, or should lots be 5,000 square feet or less to fully maximize density?
I want to make sure I understand the question, Greg. You said, is there value in large lots, or should all lots be 5,000 square feet?
I'll read the question again. Is there value in the city for large residential lots, or should lots be 5,000 square feet or less to fully maximize density?
So it's an interesting concept that I don't think anyone has proposed. So I'm just sort of, tossing around with a hypothetical here. No, of course there's value in large lots. There's also value in small lots. There's value in everything in between. I think, when I think about development and livability in this city, I hear what it means to me is whether or not people have access to everything they need, and whether or not this community is supportive of all the residents who currently live here, and is also welcoming to future residents who may wish to live here. Of course, Milwaukee isn't going to welcome every one of the 100 people a day who've moved to this region since even in the recession. But that doesn't resolve us it doesn't keep us from having an opportunity and also an obligation to continue to grow. And I think it's really important that folks, recognize that, the things that people want in a community, a walkable environment where they can get to a grocery store, requires communities to evolve as the residents and their needs change. And currently, our existing laws aren't growing with the changing demographics of the city, including long-term residents. We aren't providing the kinds of development that would allow my retired neighbors to continue living in the city. I've had multiple conversations with people who have lived here all their lives and want to continue living here for all of their lives, and they won't be able to, not just because they can't afford it, but because the current housing stock, 68% of which was built before 1970, 75% of our housing stock is what we call single family homes. That is not the environment in which everyone can thrive from all stages of their lives, in every income bracket. Is not meeting the needs of this community now, and it won't meet the needs of our community in the future.
Thank you, Ms. Faulkner. Your time is up. The next question goes to Mr. Khosrowshahi. Would it be good or bad to annex areas east of the city boundaries up to I-205 and why?
Well, I think since we provide services to some of the unincorporated areas of Clackamas County already, I don't see why we wouldn't want to incorporate them into our city. Is that what the question is? Did I understand that correctly?
Basically.
Yes. Okay. And I know that recently council has submitted a letter to the county regarding that, on incorporating some of the unincorporated areas of our city into the city. So the reason I would be behind it, like I said, we already are providing the services for those individuals that live there, those families that live in that area. They're kind of, I feel for those families because they're kind of they don't even know what city they live because it's unincorporated Clackamas County. And there's a lot of people in that side that would love to be considered Milwaukie because of what Milwaukie provides to the residents. And if we move this in the right direction, as I plan to move it in, then it's going to be even more. It's going to be even more of a place to have people want to come here, bring their families here, and raise their families here. So I would be for it, and it's because we already spend money on providing services there. The county collects the taxes, and it would be nice if we could actually provide the services ourselves and have some of that tax money come to our city.
I just received a note from Willamette Falls Television that we're getting a little bit of fuzz, Zoom fuzz. So if you have electronic devices kind of next to your microphones or something like that, cell phones or something like that, just, kind of move it away. That might be causing some interference. And that includes our co-hosts that are not on camera as well, please. Mr. Nicodemus, the next question is yours. Knowing that growing demand from Happy Valley and Milwaukie for wastewater services are needed, how would you resolve the issue of reaching capacity at the wastewater treatment plant?
I'm going to be 100% transparent here. Like I just said earlier, I'm new in this. I'm as a teacher and as a city councilor, your job is to learn what needs to be done. And it's a great question. And this is something that I'd have to go and do my own research on and actually be able to come back and give an informed answer to this. So instead of like me spinning around and talking in circles, I'm just going to say, honestly, I would have to do my research to really give a thoughtful answer on this. And I apologize to the folks that submitted this question. And, like I said, I'm learning, and this is going to be something I'm going to have to work on. So I can't give a thoughtful, intentional answer on that. And I apologize.
Thank you. That's very honest. Thank you, Mr. Nicodemus. Mr. Parsons, the next question is for you in the development category. What will you do to improve transit connections, and what services will you improve that we are lacking, and how?
Yeah. So I remember, I don't know how many years ago, I used to have a TriMet line 28, that went right by my house, a bus line. So I think that we need to work with TriMet on figuring out how to, that line ended up moving, but bring bus lines back to Milwaukie that go through the neighborhoods. Because we do have buses here, but they don't go by the places where, we need them, where people live, at least in my case. So I think talking to TriMet and getting them to try and bring back some bus lines is one of the best things that we can do, because I know I can speak personally that if, that bus line was still there, I would bus a lot more than I do now. I would take transit. So I think bringing back bus lines and also improving the roads and sidewalks in Milwaukie right now is another thing, encouraging people to bike. By improving bike and walk. By improving the roads and sidewalks that need to be improved, you can encourage that. And those are the two main things I would do.
Thank you. Mr. Reynolds, the last question is for you in the development category. Milwaukie has already met and exceeded the target set by Metro until 2035 for affordable housing. What do you see is the housing crisis, and what are your solutions?
I'll have to say up front, I don't see a housing crisis. I don't know what their standards are. We want houses that grow in value, right? And so if you want to show people how to, put money away so they can put a down payment on a house so they can afford it, that would be great. But to make houses affordable means you have to get rid of more government programs, because government is the expense that makes houses go up. Metro is the reason that our houses cost so much, because back in the 90s, we allowed them to put urban growth boundaries in. If they wouldn't have put the urban growth boundaries in, our costs wouldn't have been up. Our development costs wouldn't have gone up. So Metro is the problem with the cost of our housing. Get rid of Metro and it's going to bring our house pricing down. And the other thing is Milwaukie, you can't add that many more houses to Milwaukie. The city of Milwaukie just doesn't have the space. Where are you going to put them? You're going to do the comprehensive plan where you want to tear down existing one resident homes and put in duplexes, apartments? What do you want to do? That's what the comprehensive plan is calling for. That's what our current city commissioners are calling for, is rezoning our city so that we have multifamily homes, so you don't own a home. You own an apartment. And that's not what we want here in Milwaukie. We don't want it filled with apartments. We don't want it to be downtown Portland. We want to have our houses with our yards that we mow, and we want that, not apartments. Everybody should be able to own a house. So let's help people figure out how to do that. That's all I got.
All right, thank you. That concludes our development portion, and we're going to move on to the next topic, which is environment. The environment are not just plants, animals, and waterways that are inside our city, but is also our parks and the living threats an environment can create. Ms. Faulkner, the first question will go to you. What would you do to continue the progress that has been made towards reducing single-use plastic in the city of Milwaukie? Would you be supportive of further bans on other single-use plastic within Milwaukee's boundaries?
Yes, and I also want to make sure that we are also looking at the largest contributors to climate change. Plastic and pollution is certainly one important aspect to problem for maintaining a clean environment, but there's a lot more that we need to be focusing on that are really big problems. A huge percent of our own carbon footprint here in Milwaukie is related to our transportation and also our building envelopes. The energy use that our buildings, both residential and industrial, use. We were the first city to declare a climate emergency. I was part of the council that developed the very first climate action plan, and we're the city operations. We're leading by example. There are dozens of city-led actions that we're implementing right now, including being a partner with PGE, and we're enrolled in the Green Future Impacts. Our operations, I'm glad to see that this is a common thread through a lot of the candidates here. The city's operations actually come from 100% renewables, and we've just achieved that. We're making significant progress here, and we've got some really, really ambitious goals. And I think this community understands how important this is, that it's an existential threat. And I'm really glad to have worked on a lot of these and to continue working on a lot of these issues.
Thank you, Ms. Faulkner. Mr. Khosrowshahi, do you consider that North Clackamas Park District maintains all the city parks to a reasonable standard And could the city not do a better job outside of the park district?
Well, I don't think that North Clackamas is doing a good job, because I mean, just being a member of my NDA, we've had talks about some of the parks and the lack of care that some of the parks are getting from North Clackamas. So, I'm not here to criticize them. Obviously, there's certain reasons as to why we're not getting our parks maintained as often as we should. I don't know. I'm sure that has some COVID implications as well. But I do personally think we would do a better job outside of the county. And the reason is because this is our city. And the people that live in this city, the community that calls this city home, we sometimes forget that just because we're small, it doesn't mean we can't accomplish things that bigger cities can. Because we're small, we can accomplish more. And with the care that this community has, I think that we would do a better job maintaining our parks. And it goes back to that we live here. I have a park right down the street from me, as a lot of us do. And I think the people that live in this city would do a better job caring for the things that they use and these things that have been presented to them.
Thank you, Mr. Khosrowbadi. Mr. Nicodemus, the next question is for you. How would you accommodate the preservation of tree canopy and wildlife in the city of Milwaukie when considering new developments?
Well, honestly, once again, I feel, I'll be honest, it's been difficult to answer some of these questions, because I feel like, from my point of view, I'm an outsider coming in to this. And so I just want to make sure that before I go and say anything, I just want to make sure it's well thought out. And I just don't want to come on here and say things that I'm not that informed about. And once again, I'm going to have to go home, or I am home, but I'm going to have to do my research and then give a thoughtful answer to this. Black and brown families, are left out of these kinds of conversations. And even, our main concern is just having a house to live in, food on our table, paying our rent. And so when we're talking about these issues, we have to keep in mind who's being left out of the conversation. And this shows, by my own ignorance on this, who has been left out of the conversation time and time again. And this is why I'm running, is so we can have a seat at the table and we can get more Black and brown folks to have a better understanding of what this means for Milwaukie. And so, I'll leave it at that. And once again, I apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Nicodemus. Mr. Parsons, the next question is for you. TriMet developed the light rail corridor by taking out large trees and viable businesses with promises of replacing the trees with small new trees, significantly reducing canopy volume. What will you do to ensure that TriMet and developers keep the promises they made by, for example, replacing the trees and plants that have died since and will not grow to maturity?
Yeah, I think that the city of Milwaukie should create some kind of law, whether it's in the charter or the code or whatever, that basically requires, if basically trees are taken out, I think that they need to be replanted and maintained for a certain period of time, whether that's 5 years, 1 year, 10 years, whatever. And that will allow, them to take care of the tree for a time that makes sense for it to grow to maturity. I don't like when you just take out giant swaths of trees. I understand that it's necessary sometimes, but I think that there should be some kind of law that basically forces them to plant them again, to replant the ones, replace them, not necessarily right where they were taken down, but in the same area, and maintain them so they don't just die right after they plant them.
Thank you, Mr. Parsons.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Reynolds, the next question is for you. What would you propose to make our streets safer while recognizing people use cars, bikes, and walk to get to work, shop, and get where they need to go?
I don't know that we have an issue with our roads being unsafe here in Milwaukie, according to Chief Strait. So I don't know that I could offer anything new with that. What I do wonder though is the new city hall that we spent $6 million on. Is it a zero emission building? Is it going to be a zero emission building? Does the new city hall have earthquake standards? Has our city council actually planned for the future like they say they have? Right now, their emission standards, are they living up to them in what they're doing in the development that they say they're doing? What are they doing to actually help out our environment? These removing plastic bags is not going to solve the solution. There's not a solution to a problem because the plastic bags aren't really plastic. They're something else. So, along with the state passing the charge on paper bags that we used to get for free, how does that help out? It doesn't. So I would say with the streets, they're safe now. I would not change anything except maybe add more police officers.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Sorry, I lost my timer, or my person that was doing the timer. Okay. The last question in the environment is for Mr. Stoll. Mr. Stoll, what actions should the city take to prepare our residents, infrastructure, and government to survive a major natural disaster?
I'm trying to think about major natural disasters. Now, recently we had some fires that came pretty close, and of course, there's always the big one out there. So I would say we need a preparedness plan for the city if we don't have one, disaster recovery for some of the important IT assets that we have. I think we could provide information to the citizens, possibly through the pilot or something like that, if we haven't done so already, on these are the kind of things that you need to have, like, 2 weeks worth of water and certain amounts of food and that kind of thing.
Thank you, Mr. Stoll. We are now that concludes our environment portion of the topic program. We are now going to move on to the residents portion of the program. Milwaukie has great and tremendous residents who live their lives to the fullest. They look to the city for activities, want amenities, and want to participate. Mr. Kozabadi, the first question is for you in the residents category. All positions on council are nonpartisan. Therefore, how will you ensure that the opinions of those you disagree with are taken into consideration by all councilors?
Well, that's actually an excellent question. It is nonpartisan, and it should stay that way. And I think that how you stop that is you vote and elect the right candidates into those positions. That's how you get the right people into council. You get the people that are willing to listen. The party issue, that's a very interesting one that you bring up. I don't think any political party should play a role. Endorsement is one thing. However, playing a role in terms of funding or in terms of, I guess I would say, getting a little bit too involved in a nonpartisan campaign shows a conflict of interest. And I would like to see that be something that's considered to separate the nonpartisan candidates from partisan parties. being able to listen to the people, talk to the people, and understanding that we're not just here to represent people that vote for us. I think that's a big key. When I served overseas in Iraq, I didn't serve just for my family or the people that called me their friend. I served for everybody, regardless of background, religion, ethnicity, it didn't matter. That's what I fought for. And I continue to serve as a football coach at Portland State University, which I continue to serve young student athletes on and off the field and in the classroom, helping them. And the only way to do that is by listening. Being in a leadership position in the Marine Corps, you have to listen. And I think that's one of the biggest differences here is elect a candidate who's going to listen to everyone and not pick and choose. As I said in the beginning, it's not about picking sides, it's about building bridges. Our community cares about each other. We deeply do. And we can really accomplish a lot of things in Milwaukie if we just took the time to listen. Again, 2 ears, one mouth for a reason.
Thank you, Mr. Carlos-Body. Mr. Nicodemus, the next question is for you. Milwaukie used to have an annual Milwaukie Days Parade. Now the city employs an event coordinator and a community engagement program coordinator. Should the city resurrect the parade or hold other events?
Sorry, could you repeat what was the annual parade? I didn't hear that.
It was called, I'll read the question again. Milwaukie used to have an annual Milwaukie Days Parade. Now the city employs an event coordinator and a community engagement program coordinator. Should the city resurrect the parade and or other events?
I'm not sure what the Milwaukie Days Parade was, but, you know, I'm thinking, once again, why I'm running is for representation, so we can have parades and celebrations for all cultures, all folks in the community. And this is something that the community can decide on as well. What do they deem is important? So, you know, once again, it would be an opportunity to engage all of our community members to decide what is important and what are the things that are important to all Milwaukie residents. Not just tradition, because we can't always rely on tradition. What we need to rely on is like our new folks who are coming into our community. You know, for myself, at my school, we started a Cultural Connections Day where we celebrate all the cultures within our school. I also started a Milwaukie BIPOC group to get the voice of Milwaukie residents, all BIPOC Milwaukie residents, so we can get together and have a voice and come to the city and say, hey, look, you know, we'd like to see a Juneteenth celebration. We'd like to see a Day of the Dead celebration. So there's lots of opportunities for all Milwaukie residents to see themselves reflected in any kind of celebration that happens in Milwaukie. And so, you know, once again, it goes back to what the community is asking for. And it's not just a Desi solution or what Desi wants. It's what the community is asking for and what all Milwaukeeans want. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nicodemus. Mr. Parsons, the next question in residence will go to you. Years ago, a small group of young people attended a city council meeting asking for a skate park. The young folks in Gladstone enjoyed a youth golf course and a BMX park. What amenities should the city of Milwaukie provide for its youth?
Well, I think a skate park would be a good idea, first of all. But I think that we should create some kind of youth committee, a committee of just youth in the community, and ask them what they want, what kind of amenities would be good for them, and work on creating that. Probably involve working with North Clackamas Parks or whatever department it makes sense to work with, and make that happen. But I think a youth committee would be a great idea, and it's not just for amenities, but just in general to get their take on things. But I think that's what we should do. Yeah, and I do think a skate park would actually be a good idea. A skate park. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Parsons. Mr. Reynolds, the next question will go to you. Do you support increased inclusion in all parts of society for individuals who have been historically marginalized? If not, or why not? If yes, what policies would you support to achieve this goal?
That's a deep question. So, growing up in the suburbs, I can't say that I know what that's like to walk in minority shoes. I mean, I'm a minority, but I've lived in the suburbs, so I don't know what they've gone through, what they've seen. So, but what I've said before and what I'll keep saying is here in Milwaukie, you can be involved in whatever you want. If you want to be on an NDA, volunteer. If you want to be on a committee, volunteer. So there doesn't need to be any changes made. People just need to get up and volunteer. If you want to see changes, get involved. Don't stand on the sideline and scream while I'm being left out. Get involved. We're a pretty awesome society where we don't hold people back. We don't have any inclusiveness where we keep people from running. I mean, look, we have 4 candidates running for the same position. We're all different backgrounds. We all have different reasons why we're running, but everybody's allowed to run. All you have to do is collect 20 signatures. You can do that of your neighbors. Come on. So, anything you want to do in Milwaukie, you can do. Nothing's holding you back. So I don't know. I can't see any changes that I would make.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Mr. Stoll, the next question is for you. What would you propose to encourage and promote retail and commercial development in Milwaukie neighborhoods?
Retail and commercial development in Milwaukie neighborhoods. I know that the city has like a neighborhood hub concept that, depending on where you're at, may or may not be well received. I would think trying to attract another grocery store to the Milwaukie marketplace, and I know people on the council, the mayor have been trying to do that. Local development. I would gauge and ask the people what is it they want, and then perhaps based on the citizens' feedback, try and get some stuff in place. I, for one, don't really see a real need for it.
Thank you, Mr. Stoll. And the last question in the residents category will go to Ms. Faulkner. Ms. Faulkner, how do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process throughout the city?
Building off of what we've already done and what we can improve on. When I served on the visioning committee before I was on council, we reached over 1,000 different voices. And one of the ways that we did that was through reimagining what public engagement looks like, including meeting people where they are. And what that means and what we did was we changed things up, very different than the way public engagement has been done traditionally. We hosted events that included not just childcare, but actual children's activities, so that children could engage and help inform the decisions around that visioning project. We now provide childcare. And in all of our community in large and community events where we're seeking public input. We also provide translation services. We provide Spanish language and Russian language, and we're expanding that so that those services can be requested within 24 hours notice for any public meeting. We've changed the format up, the way that we've made it so that meetings are more inviting for people. We make sure that we conduct a lot of surveys online, and when we do that, we're also measuring our success. I've been insisting that we actually ask for voluntary information about just demographics. Are you a renter? Because 42% of Milwaukeeans are renters, for example. The income bracket that you fall in. Because we know that overwhelmingly the folks who are able to get involved and to have their voices heard are not representative of a cross-section of Milwaukeeans. They skew much, much higher income than the typical Milwaukee resident. We've engaged our youth, and in fact, pre-COVID, we actually started a program where we were seating youth, including voting members on all of our committees. We've engaged in completely different and more meaningful ways with our school district, the Parks District. We're leveraging our library as a meeting place.
Ms. Faulkner, your 2 minutes are up, so if you want to wrap it up real quick.
Thank you. More to come.
Thank you, Ms. Faulkner. So we are pretty close to making it in the hour and a half, and so for interest of our audience and for everybody here, I think that we are just going to go on to our final remarks. And so the Forum Committee, the NDAs, and the residents of Milwaukie would like to thank each of you for participating tonight and providing answers to the residents' questions. I would like to give each one of you a chance to make a final statement and persuade the voters to elect you on November 3rd. You may discuss anything you wish during your final remarks. And Mr. Nicodemus, you are first up for the final remarks.
Once again, I want to say thank you to everyone, the NDAs for setting this up, my opponents for being here. And really, once again, I want to bring it back to why I'm running. It's about representation. And if we look historically about who's been on city council, has there been equal representation? Once again, as a teacher working in North Clackamas, we don't even have representation for teachers, for our students, which we have 36 to 40% of our students of color, and we only have about 1 or 2% teachers of color. And if we talk about experience, who gets the experience? Who's the one that always has a seat at the table to gain the experience? So once again, bringing it back to making sure folks have a voice, at least have a seat at the table to be able to make decisions like this. If by running, I'm able to inspire another BIPOC candidate, to do this, and not the next Desi, but the next whoever, that's what it's all about. It's making sure that everyone has the opportunity, because I wouldn't have the opportunity if I didn't have the help of people in the know. And once again, I wouldn't, it isn't as easy as going out and getting 20 signatures. It's a lot more. There's a lot more involved in this process. So, I just want people to know, or people to think about, who is getting the experience and who needs to gain more experience. So I would just ask for people to vote for me on November 3rd and, go to my website and learn more about me. And if any of my students, past or present, are watching, this is what we talk about in class: civic duty. This is what we talk about: take action and work in your community. And this is why we have those conversations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nicodemus. Mr. Parsons, would you like to give your final remarks?
Yes, thank you. Again, I would just like to thank the moderator, the hosts, the neighborhood associations, and all the candidates. It's great to live in a city where there are so many people who care so much about Milwaukie. Regardless of your opinions on where we should go. We have so many people who care about the city. And, that's the one good thing about having people like that is, on election day, regardless of who you vote for, you're not going to make a wrong decision, in my opinion. Every single person here cares so deeply about the city and is going to try their best to make it better, even if you might disagree with certain policies of theirs. They have the same overall goal as you. So I encourage you to go to my website, KellenParsons.com, go to my social media, learn about, my vision for how we can make Milwaukie better. And, if you agree with that, vote for me. If you don't, vote your conscience. That's all I can really ask for you to do. But yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Mr. Parsons. Mr. Reynolds, you are next for the closing remarks.
I want to thank all the NDAs and Greg, thank you. And David, thanks for Zach, thanks for stepping up and helping out with us. Really appreciate this opportunity to speak to everyone. The reason I'm running, like I said, is I want to see Milwaukie take a new stance. I want to see it turn around back to what it used to be, the Milwaukie, a small community. Not try to make us like Portland, try to bring in more apartments and take away our rights in owning homes and put us into duplexes. Let's try to increase our home ownership and decrease our renters. That would be my goal. And to make sure we have safe streets. Why did the city council remove our police officers from the transit? They took our 2 police officers we had on max and took them off. So, if you want to say you want to have something safe, well, they're not doing it. They don't have a plan to do it. So I would make sure we have a plan to take care of our transit and make it safe for people to use it. So, thanks a lot for watching. Let's keep Milwaukie. Let's make Milwaukie great again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Mr. Stoll, your final remarks.
I'd like to echo the thanks to the people who put this thing on, Greg and Zach and the NDA people, all the people who contributed questions. Also want to acknowledge the other candidates. They really had some interesting ideas. I'm kind of in Robert's camp. I really don't want to see Milwaukie change that much. I really like it the way it is. There is going to be some increased density. Let's try and manage that the best we can. There's certainly issues with sidewalks in certain areas that I'd like to see get addressed. And I think we have a program that's kind of working that direction. I've been volunteering for a while here in the community, doing Meals on Wheels. I cover a lot of ground in the city, the budget committee work. Like I said in my opening remarks, getting the utility rates lower by using additional debt financing and not financing 40-year assets out of current ratepayers' pockets. I think that will help lead to more affordable housing for everyone if we can keep the utility rates lower than they are today. That's my primary reason for running. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stoll. Ms. Felkner, your closing remarks.
I want to thank everybody who participated tonight, the organizers, the viewers, and my fellow candidates. You've been called to serve your community. Running for office takes a great deal of courage, and serving on this council is not a commitment to take lightly. It's been my great honor to serve on this council for 4 years, and I'm looking forward to serving another term to continue making good on my campaign promises. Over the last 4 years, I've been proud to work alongside some of the most dedicated and caring people I know in this community. We're tackling big, challenging issues, and together we're making significant progress. Climate change is the single greatest threat to future Milwaukeeans. On council, I helped create Milwaukee's first ever climate action plan, which sets us on a path toward a completely sustainable future for the next generation. I have helped create programs and policies that will increase housing choice and affordability to make Milwaukie truly livable for all our families. Milwaukie lacks safe routes to school and affordable transportation options for all our residents. I led the creation of a program that is filling the gaps in our active transportation network while also continuing to repave our streets in need of repair. I am proud to be part of a team on City Council that values working together and is committed to robust engagement. Together, we're addressing the community's greatest needs, including building a more equitable, just, and inclusive city. Most recently, I prioritized funding for small business relief and rent assistance to our community members who were hit hardest by COVID. In addition to the pandemic, we faced unprecedented wildfires. Under our council's leadership, the city was prepared to face that challenge, and we worked alongside first responders, churches, and other community groups to literally put out fires and also care for evacuees with emergency shelter and services. I love the city of Milwaukee, and I've had the privilege of meeting many good, caring, hardworking people who love this city too. And it would be my honor to continue to serve alongside of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Faulkner. And last but not least, Mr. Khosrowshahi. I'll get used to it here sometime, Adam. Mr. Khosrowshahi, please, your final remarks.
Yes. Milwaukee, I'm not here to tell you that I have all the answers. I'm sure I have solutions as to everybody else. What I'm here for is because in the next 4 years, it's going to be extremely important for our city to take what we do very seriously. Whoever is elected on council. COVID, when that is done, there's going to be immense amount of pressure to get things done. There's climate and environment, action that we need to continue to take on climate and environment. And the answers lie with you all. The answers don't just lie with me or an individual candidate. The answers lie out there. And this is going to be, these next 4 years, this undertaking, whoever is elected to this office is going to need to treat this as a full-time job. They're going to need to sacrifice, and they're going to need to spend the time that it takes to meet with people and be out there, walk the streets, and instead of just inviting people to the website to watch a meeting, actually go to these people that do feel marginalized. Show them that they have your ear. A lot of you might have seen me at the farmers market. I'm there every Sunday. I've been there since July. And I will continue to be until the farmer market is closed, obviously. But that doesn't mean that's where I stop. My phone number, I tell everybody, contact me. Let's talk, let's discuss. If you want to talk, I would love to listen. That's what I'm here to do. I'm here to bring us together, focus on the issues we have in hand, and support the ones in need. And those topics that I've pointed out, I will say again, community engagement, and that includes with our minority communities, our LGBTQIA+ communities, our BIPOC communities. We need to do a better job engaging. Affordable housing, when there's a 21-year-old kid sleeping outside of your house in his car, that says that you have an issue. Public safety and transportation. We have the ability to get the revenue to fix our streets, pave the roads, and make it safer for those with disabilities to walk on our streets. Climate and environment, small business, and budget. Again, these are all the 6 areas that I feel like we need to focus on as a city. Small business is going to be huge, and we need a small business-minded individual on council to help guide us through that.
Thank you, Mr. Khosrowshahi. I would like to thank each and every one of you for tuning in tonight. Once again, thank you, Celebrate Milwaukee, Willamette Falls Studio, League of Women Voters, the Forum Committee, our candidates, and especially our NDAs and our residents. Remember, your country demands so very little of you. Pay your taxes and sign up for the census. That is really all it asks. In return, all it wants you to do is for you to participate in choosing a person that will best represent you in our government decision-making process. Please vote November 3rd. Thank you all and have a very good night.